Ever since the first studies of the Great Pyramid in Egypt have been made, researchers have been amazed at the mathematical knowledge that is encoded into the Great Pyramid.
For thousands of years, it's been one of the world's great mysteries. Just how were the pyramids built so deep in the Egyptian desert?
Since the first serious studies of Egypt's Great Pyramid began, researchers have been captivated by the mathematical knowledge that appears to be embedded within this ancient structure. The measurements used in its construction, along with the precise location selected for the Great Pyramid, have created endless fascination among Egyptologists. For over a century, the Great Pyramid of Giza was considered a mystery that had already been explained, a monumental achievement built by ancient humans using simple tools and carefully organized labor. However, when all available archaeological data from Giza was analyzed through a neutral AI system, the results revealed that the numbers no longer seemed to fit. The physical evidence that remained did not fully correspond with the tools traditionally believed to have created it. What Grok AI uncovered did not simply challenge the accepted narrative, it revealed that the existing explanation was incomplete, a story that could no longer fully stand on its own.
Research that is looking at structures that are underneath the bottom of the pyramid, and incredibly controversial, very fascinating, and if it's accurate, it essentially rewrites all of human history.
For almost 200 years, Egyptology has followed a broadly accepted agreement, so firmly established that challenging it has often been viewed as a danger to academic reputation. The Great Pyramid of Giza, created around 2560 BCE under Pharaoh Khufu's rule, is believed to have been built by thousands of coordinated laborers using copper implements, wooden sledges, and ramp methods. This idea has supporting evidence. Hieroglyphic writings remain. Worker settlements have been uncovered near the Giza Plateau. Tool marks appear across stone surfaces. Papyri records the movement of construction materials. For the general public and scholars alike, the matter has been regarded as settled. However, the numbers contained within the structure itself have never completely matched that explanation. The pyramid's base was aligned within only 2.1 centimeters over a distance of 230 meters. A precision equal to approximately 0.009% variation from a flawless plane. This remarkable accuracy continues to raise questions about ancient engineering abilities and capabilities. Modern building standards for massive structures usually permit deviations of up to 0.1%. The pyramid surpasses that benchmark by 10 times. Yet this remarkable precision is credited to wooden tools, plumb lines, and water channels. Its four sides point toward true north with an error of only 3 arc minutes, a level of accuracy that today requires sophisticated surveying equipment, satellite technology, and carefully controlled astronomical measurements. Experimental archaeology has repeatedly tried to recreate these levels of precision using the suggested ancient techniques. In every recorded attempt, the results have missed the mark by a full order of magnitude, with inaccuracies measured in centimeters instead of millimeters. The construction schedule creates another major challenge. The 20-year period mentioned in ancient records would mean placing nearly 300 massive stone blocks every single day. That equals roughly 1 block every 2 minutes during daylight hours without interruption for 20 years. This calculation assumes perfect organization, 0 failures, and no time needed for improvement or adjustment. No other recognized ancient building project required this degree of continuous accuracy under such extreme pressure. The traditional explanation provides separate solutions for each unusual feature when examined individually. The precise leveling is linked to forgotten methods. The astronomical alignment is explained through simple observations of the stars. The rapid construction is credited to large-scale workforce management. Each mystery receives its own individual answer and is never expected to work together as one complete explanation. What the traditional model has never provided is a single, unified explanation that explains all these elements at the same time within the same monument, created by the same group of builders. The difference between the proposed theory and the physical evidence of the structure has remained unresolved in academic discussions for over a century. This continued until a system without any professional interest in protecting existing ideas began examining the entire collection of evidence together. When an unbiased system analyzed the information in 2024, Elon Musk's Grok AI received broad access to the complete collection of available data related to the Giza pyramids. This included archaeological surveys, construction studies, astronomical alignment research, mathematical analysis, geological evaluations, and databases of tool marks gathered through more than a century of investigation. The instruction was clear. Examine the data without theoretical assumptions, without expert prejudice, and without any responsibility to protect current interpretations. What appeared was not simply a new reading of one unusual discovery, it was a connected pattern, covering several separate areas of evidence, all leading toward the same conclusion. The earliest and most statistically important discovery involved mathematical connections hidden within the pyramid's measurements. The relationship between the pyramid's base perimeter and its height closely matches 2 pi, the essential constant linked to circles, with a precision of roughly 0.05%. Other proportions linking height, base length, and slope angle align with the golden ratio phi, a value not officially recognized until the period of ancient Greek mathematics over 2,000 years afterward. When viewed separately, each connection could possibly be rejected as chance. However, Grok detected at least 7 separate measurement relationships inside the same monument that all represent these constants. The chance that all 7 could occur randomly in a structure created through experimentation and error without higher mathematical understanding was determined to be statistically almost impossible. The following discovery expanded the consequences even more. When the pyramid's height is multiplied by 43,200, the outcome closely matches the Earth's polar radius. When the base perimeter is multiplied by that identical number, the outcome closely matches the Earth's equatorial circumference. The number 43,200 equals precisely the number of seconds contained in 12 hours, a basic measurement of time indicating that this scaling connection was likely not random but intentionally selected. Independent surveyors and engineers who examined the method verified that the possibility of this three-dimensional match developing independently inside one structure is practically non-existent. This creates one unavoidable conclusion. The monument seems to have been created by people who understood the measurements of the Earth. Based on accepted historical evidence, that level of knowledge should not have been available during that period, and if such knowledge was present, the question changes from how the pyramid was constructed to who had the understanding necessary to design it. The marks created by tools on stone and mathematical patterns, with enough room for interpretation, can still be rejected by some as complex coincidences. But physical proof directly engraved into stone does not provide the same freedom. Grok's examination compared tool mark records with the granite sections of the pyramid, especially inside the hidden chambers, the sarcophagus located in the king's chamber, and the pressure-relieving chambers above it. These sections were made from granite carried from Aswan, located over 800 kilometers away from Giza. The findings revealed a type of tool marking that does not correspond with any recognized ancient tool patterns throughout the complete archaeological record. The problem begins with the hardness of the materials involved. Granite contains quartz crystals that measure 7 on the Mohs scale, the accepted system used to measure mineral hardness from 1 to 10. Copper, the strongest metal accessible in Bronze Age Egypt, measures only between 2.5 and 3. From a physical perspective, a softer substance cannot carve through a harder material in a smooth and consistent way. Instead, it creates redirected cuts, shifting away when it meets harder particles, producing uneven depths and rough surfaces. Modern tests attempting to cut granite using copper tools combined with abrasive sand repeatedly create these same outcomes. Without any exception, the cuts found on the pyramid's granite do not display this behavior. They preserve consistent depth and straight paths even while crossing between minerals with different hardness levels inside the same stone block. This is something that copper tools combined with abrasive material, according to theory, should not be able to accomplish. The strongest evidence comes from an artifact called the Petrie core. a cylindrical granite sample discovered at the site and initially studied by British engineer and archaeologist Flinders Petrie during the late 19th century. A spiral-shaped groove runs across its surface, showing signs of tubular drilling. Petrie calculated the drill's feed rate, meaning the distance the tool moved deeper into the stone during each complete rotation. The measurement he reached suggests pressure and rotational speed much greater than anything achievable through any known ancient hand-operated drilling technique. Over 100 years later, mechanical engineer Christopher Dunn analyzed the same artifact again and determined that the cutting patterns match one of two explanations: a drill fitted with diamond tips or an ultrasonic vibration system that sends energy directly into the stone. Neither technology appears anywhere in the known archaeological evidence of ancient Egypt. Grok examined the complete collection of granite tool marks from the pyramid and compared them with a database of modern cutting technologies, including diamond blades, high-speed rotating equipment, water jet systems, and ultrasonic machining. The closest similarities were not connected to ancient methods. The system does not claim that modern tools were used. Instead, it confirms that certain granite sections of the monument were shaped through a technique that present-day science cannot categorize within the historical setting of ancient Egypt. The tools believed to have been used by the builders cannot explain the evidence that remains preserved in the stone. Something different created these results, and that unknown method has left no evidence anywhere else within the archaeological record of the civilization thought to have constructed this monument. When anomalies are no longer separate issues. For more than a century, every unusual discovery discussed so far has existed in academic studies as an individual problem. Strange tool marks have been considered unanswered engineering questions separated from mathematical analysis. Mathematical patterns have been presented as discussions about measurement methods, disconnected from geological evidence. Within the traditional research system, no one has had both the motivation and the position to bring every category of evidence together and demand that they all make sense simultaneously. That is exactly what Grok has attempted, and the outcome is not simply a collection of separate difficulties added together. It represents something entirely different. For the traditional construction explanation to remain valid, all of these points must be accurate at the same moment. Ancient Egyptians of the Bronze Age would have needed to achieve leveling accuracy 10 times beyond modern construction standards using wooden instruments and softer metals. They would have needed to create astronomical alignment beyond the ability of their available measuring devices. They would have needed to include mathematical constants that they had no known theoretical system to explain not only once or twice, but through at least 7 separate relationships. They would also have needed to shape granite with copper tools in ways that modern experimental archaeology has failed to recreate. And they would have needed to achieve all of this within one enormous project, during the same historical period, using the same technological resources. Grok does not examine each requirement separately. It calculates the likelihood that all of these conditions could exist together. The result is straightforward. The pyramid does not display the qualities of a monument created at the maximum level of a civilization's available abilities. Structures built at the boundary of technological development usually reveal evidence of trial, early mistakes before improvement, increasing accuracy over time, and variations between different stages of construction. The Great Pyramid does not display these signs. The greatest precision is not found at the final stage after builders gained experience. It exists from the earliest stage within the foundation itself, in the first stones that were positioned. Whatever understanding created this monument was not developing while construction was underway. It was already established before the work even started. This represents the most important change in the entire examination. The issue is no longer about one method or one measurement. It is the understanding that the complete collection of evidence, when required to fit together logically, leads toward one conclusion. The origin of the knowledge behind this structure extends beyond what the traditional explanation is able to account for. And this creates a question that researchers have avoided for a long time but can no longer ignore. Why does the archaeological record contain no evidence of the journey that produced this level of knowledge? what the evidence does not reveal. If the pyramid demonstrates a level of understanding that was already fully developed before construction started, then that knowledge must have come from somewhere. The archaeological record's answer to this question is not uncertain. It is completely silent, and that absence itself becomes meaningful evidence. Advanced building techniques in ancient Egypt do not appear to follow the same gradual progression seen in almost every other area of human development. Pottery, metalworking, farming, and writing all show a steady growth in complexity through recognizable stages of advancement. Researchers can follow each small improvement throughout history. The pyramid timeline does not show the same pattern. The Step Pyramid at Saqqara, created during Pharaoh Djoser's reign, is considered the first major stone construction project in Egypt. Just 3 generations later, the Great Pyramid of Giza appears with its complete precision and advanced engineering already established. There is no surviving evidence of large-scale, unsuccessful experiments. No archaeological remains show structures gradually approaching Giza-level accuracy before that achievement was reached. The ability appears suddenly without a visible path of development leading to it. Geological evidence from the Sphinx area makes the mystery even more complex. Geologist Robert Schoch from Boston University examined the erosion patterns found on the Sphinx's body and the surrounding enclosure walls. Weathering describes the slow breakdown of stone caused by long-term exposure to environmental forces. 2 main forms are recognized: horizontal erosion created by wind and sand, and vertical erosion produced by rainfall. Each creates a unique pattern on stone surfaces. Schoch discovered deep vertical erosion marks on the Sphinx and its surrounding enclosure, matching the effects of extended exposure to heavy rainfall. The most recent period when North Africa received enough rainfall to create this type of erosion ended between 7000 and 9000 BCE. This would suggest that the Sphinx may date back to at least that period, thousands of years before the rise of dynastic Egypt. The traditional archaeological explanation connects these patterns to wind and sand erosion. Grok's geological examination tested this idea by comparing the Sphinx's erosion features with those found on confirmed dynastic monuments across the same Giza plateau. The outcome is clear. Those later structures show horizontal erosion caused by wind. The Sphinx shows vertical erosion caused by water. 2 monuments in the same area, exposed to identical environmental conditions for thousands of years, yet showing completely different erosion patterns. This difference cannot be explained by today's climate conditions. It can only be explained by a difference in age. This creates a direct disagreement between 2 independently measurable forms of evidence. The accepted construction timeline and the erosion evidence cannot both be accurate. If the traditional date is correct, the erosion pattern should not be present. If the erosion pattern is correct, then the accepted construction date must be reconsidered. Schoch officially presented his geological research at the Geological Society of America conference in 1991 in front of an audience of professional geologists. No one dismissed his technical evaluation. The most significant resistance did not come from geologists, but from Egyptologists, experts who were not specialists in stone erosion, yet who had a strong interest in maintaining the accepted historical timeline. The Petrie core has remained documented since the 1880s. The geological examination of the Sphinx was formally introduced in 1991. Mathematical patterns within the pyramid's design have been identified by independent researchers for many years. Yet none of these discoveries changed the academic viewpoint, not because the evidence was defeated by stronger findings, but because every piece of information was studied separately, divided into individual categories, and never required to fit together into one complete explanation. A system with no personal investment in protecting existing ideas revealed what traditional academic methods were never structured to examine as a whole. What certainty appears like from an external perspective. Grok does not determine the identity of the pyramid's builders. That answer is not available within the evidence, and the system accurately recognizes that limit. What the analysis creates is not a replacement theory, but a clearly defined boundary, a point separating what the traditional explanation successfully explains and what it fails to explain. On one side of this boundary are the accepted facts of dynastic Egypt. Government records, discovered worker settlements, copper tools found within archaeological settings, and proof of large organized labor groups working on the Giza Plateau. These facts are genuine and remain supported under examination. On the opposite side are observations that are equally genuine. Precision in leveling that surpasses modern building standards, astronomical alignment beyond the measurement abilities assigned to the builders, mathematical patterns appearing thousands of years before their official recognition, granite cutting marks that do not match copper tools, the complete lack of earlier developmental stages in the construction process, and the unresolved disagreement between the accepted construction timeline and the Sphinx's erosion evidence. These findings can be measured and they are not explained by the evidence found on the other side. From this dividing point, several possibilities become possible and none provide an easy answer. Ancient Egyptians may have possessed much more advanced construction abilities than what remains visible in the archaeological record. Specialized tools or techniques may have been limited to royal projects and never spread widely, eventually disappearing with the civilization that created them. Or the pyramids may have been built by dynastic Egyptians using inherited knowledge from an earlier society that existed during the wetter Sahara period when North Africa supported larger and possibly more sophisticated communities than recorded history currently shows. Another possibility is that the geological evidence of the Sphinx is accurate and that the Giza Plateau contained monumental construction long before dynastic Egypt, created by a civilization whose existence has not yet been confirmed by historical records. Each of these possibilities represents a reasonable explanation. None of them is completely rejected by the physical evidence. None of them is completely proven by it either. What Grok demonstrates is not a final answer about who created the pyramid. Instead, it shows that the mystery remains unresolved and that in reality, it has never been fully solved. The explanation that has guided understanding for over a century is not a conclusion completely proven by available evidence. It is a model supported partly by agreement within separate academic disciplines and partly by the lack of any system with enough ability and motivation to combine all forms of evidence and require them to make sense together. An artificial intelligence system has now carried out exactly that process, and the outcome is not an unusual speculation. It is a clear indication that the existing explanation does not cover everything. The pyramid remains standing. The measurements remain unchanged. The marks preserved in the stone are still there, and the question of what created all these features, a question that has remained in academic discussions for more than a century and repeatedly postponed, can no longer be ignored as unreasonable simply because the traditional explanation seems easier to accept. Because being simple does not automatically make something true, and that may be the most challenging realization of all.